If Democrats really want to die on the hill of bringing back plane loads of criminal, illegal alien gang members...
But you haven't proven that they're criminals. That's the problem.
Be my guest.
Honestly, look, I will be the first one to say if there is a gang member in this country, someone who has committed any crime, big or small, get him out. Sure, I'll absolutely concede that. We don't need criminals in this country. But if you're talking about somebody who you don't know because you haven't afforded them due process, then you can't just make that claim.
But the fact remains, President Trump is not only securing our border, but he is deporting criminal, illegal aliens. And if Democrats want to stand in the way of that, and they want to tell their constituents, hey, vote for us in the midterms, vote for us in 2028, we'll make sure that the criminal aliens come back. Far be it from me to stand in your way. Continue that message. Best of luck with it.
All right.
And if Republicans want to run on, hey, we can disappear you with no due process, far be it for me to stand in your way. If Republicans want to turn the United States into Russia, where we disappear political opponents with zero due process, sending them to foreign gulags somewhere, if that's really what you're running on behind the banner of the Party of Law and Order, be my guest.
This is an incredible success. President Trump has been able to do it in rapid speed, and there's nobody getting caught up that has a legal right to be here. You come into this country illegally, you are up for deportation. That might make Democrats mad, but I think that most of us on the right and the country that voted for this are quite happy with what's going on.
It's interesting that you say nobody's getting caught up, because Abrego Garcia was caught up by getting sent to a foreign gulag in El Salvador when the Trump administration itself conceded that it was an administrative error. And so the Supreme Court, this 6-3 conservative Supreme Court, and a court that is so extreme, we've never seen a court this far right in our lifetimes, ruled 9-0 unanimously that he had to be sent back. So to claim that no one is getting caught up in this system when that is exactly what's happening and it's being litigated at the highest levels of the judiciary is pretty bad faith here. That was me and Tomi Lahren during a debate on Fox LA hosted by Alex Michelson, wherein the hill that Tomi decided to die on was defending the illegal extradition of legal residents to a foreign maximum security prison. Pretty normal stuff. I mean, really, why wouldn't we want to disappear people who are in the U.S. legally from the United States to an El Salvadorian gulag? So let's be clear on the facts here. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a legal resident of the United States. His wife is an American citizen. He has no charges against him. He has a valid work permit for the U.S. He's a sheet metal worker. He's a member of a union. He was deported by the Trump administration. The administration conceded in court that his deportation was a, quote, administrative error, and yet, rather than return him, we're now in a situation where Trump has decided that this case represents his broader immigration agenda. And so he's opted to defy the U.S. Supreme Court, plunging us into a constitutional crisis. You'll notice in the initial clip that Tomi says that no one is getting caught up who has a legal right to be here. Again, he is a legal resident. He has a legal right to be here. He has work permits inside the United States to work. The fact that somebody could say that no one is getting caught up when we are quite literally watching people get caught up is a testament to the fact that they have no qualms about lying to your face. They are effectively broadcasting that they are completely comfortable saying that up is down and left is right. This is a group of people who are wholly untethered to reality, who feel like they can lie with impunity because within their right-wing media ecosystem, no one's going to hold them to account. And so what we're left with is utter nonsense like this.
Todavía hay preguntas sobre el ilegal que vivió en Maryland. ¿Sí o no? ¿Será retornado a los Estados Unidos?
As you know, the Supreme Court, after we get out all of the fake news from CNN and all these other people, we won that case 9-0. Mm-hmm. And basically, that's really a decision that will be made by the government of El Salvador, because that's where, I assume that's the one you're talking about.
Yes, he's from El Salvador.
Staying there, and he's from El Salvador. So that's a decision up to El Salvador. Okay. But it's interesting because we won that decision 9-0 in the Supreme Court. And if you listen to the news, you wouldn't know that.
Right.
You would really have no idea.
Fair enough.
So it's up to El Salvador.
Okay.
Trump says that he won the Supreme Court case 9-0, which is not true in that he lost the Supreme Court case 9-0. And again, that betrays the fact that A, he is willing to lie with abandon, and B, he believes his supporters are so stupid they will believe the polar opposite of what is true. I know that Republicans love to pretend that Democrats hate them, but no one has more disdain for their own voters than Republicans.
The debate between myself and Tomi continued with this.
I think you and I can both agree that if these folks are committing fraud, that is a serious crime, probably the most serious crime that you could commit. And I mean, anybody who is committing fraud would obviously be charged, tried, convicted. And so can you explain to me how we've been hearing this talking point about fraud, all this fraud is getting eliminated over and over and over again, and yet not a single charge has been filed. So if there's all this fraud that Elon Musk is tweeting about on a daily basis, that Fox is hosting interviews to discuss, where are the charges?
I can't wait for those charges to come down. As you know, it takes a little while.
I mean, think about it. We're hearing about all of this fraud left and right as the supposed justification for Elon Musk's actions with Doge. He's out there working for you, shoring up your programs, and anyone who's protesting against his perceived overreach is simply helping perpetuate the very fraud that he's trying to root out. Only, small problem, there is quite literally zero proof of any fraud, other than Elon's very legitimate source of, trust me, bro. Think about it. Fraud's pretty serious, right? Something you think if Elon found, he would have a vested interest in getting prosecuted right away. And yet, why haven't we seen any litigation? Because it takes a long time, as Tomi claims? Think about every case that's been brought in front of the federal judges in the last few days or weeks or months. Cases preventing probationary employees from being fired, cases reinstating top officials who were wrongly terminated, cases blocking Trump's executive orders, like the one regarding birthright citizenship. They all moved pretty quickly, right? It has been 100 days, and yet still not a single lawsuit. I guess we'll see those as soon as we get proof of Trump's claims of election fraud from 2020. But if it seems ridiculous, let me disabuse you of that notion, because pretending that we're going to see charges that will never materialize is the strategy unto itself. Republicans know that they can convince their audience of something by promising charges at some untold point in the future, knowing full well that by the time it comes to actually substantiate it, they will have moved on to something else. Will we still be talking about Elon's elusive Social Security fraud in a month from now? 2 months? 6 months? Who knows? But Republicans can always just pretend that it's coming really soon, knowing full well that by the time the appropriate amount of time passes, they will distract you with something shiny and new. And finally, there was this moment.
And what you're also seeing is this president in action. He's managed to, in a couple of days' time, isolate China from the rest of the world, put them in their place. He's got that 90-day pause. Other countries coming to the table, 70 plus, lining up to make deals with this president. So I'm incredibly happy to see this thing play out. I understand the anxiety. I trust the process. I trust this president. And I think that we're off to the races.
Brian, do you trust this president?
I don't think that I trust the president any more than most of the country trust the president on the economy right now. The reality is that this is an economic calamity that he has ushered in, and he's done it unilaterally and voluntarily. If we actually do descend into a full-blown recession, which most people, most economists are predicting that we will right now, it'll be the first time that it's done at the hands of an American president as an error, a completely unforced error. The reality is that the stock market is tanking. All of our indexes are in correction territory. If a Democratic president did this, Tomi would be apoplectic at the ruin that has been ushered in. And the only time there was some momentary reprieve in the stock market is when Donald Trump himself caved on his own policy. And finally, Tomi, you had mentioned that we're isolating China on the world stage. There's reporting now that Japan and South Korea are negotiating trade deals with China to go around American tariffs. There's reporting that the EU is working with China to eliminate those tariffs for EVs. So I'm concerned that you're not familiar with which country, in fact, is actually being isolated on the world stage. Doesn't look like it's China.
The old art of the deal. Trump has China right where he wants him. Only one problem, he doesn't. Trump claims to have done all of this in the interest of bolstering America's standing in the world in the face of an ascendant China, when in reality, all he's doing is driving the world into the arms of China. Greenland, for example, is seeking closer ties with China now, with Greenland's foreign minister saying that it potentially is looking into a free trade agreement, according to Chinese state news agency Xinhua. Japan and South Korea are looking to jointly respond to U.S. tariffs, according to Reuters. The EU and China are now relaxing tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Does any of this sound like the U.S. is beating China? Of course not. And yet, despite all of this glaring evidence that the world is abandoning the United States and coalescing around China, this administration continues to delude itself into thinking that it somehow has the upper hand.
The president has made his position on China quite clear, although I do have an additional statement that he just shared with me in the Oval Office. The ball is in China's court. China needs to make a deal with us. We don't have to make a deal with them. There's no difference between China and any other country except they are much larger. And China wants what we have, what every country wants, what we have, the American consumer. Or to put it another way, they need our money. So the president, again, has made it quite clear that he's open to a deal with China, but China needs to make a deal with the United States of America.
And look, I say this as somebody who loves my country and who's dedicated his life to fighting for this country. We don't have the upper hand in this negotiation. It would be one thing if the world was united against China with us. It's not. The world is actually united against the United States because our president is a moron who spent the first 100 days in office threatening everyone. My God, he has threatened to invade half a dozen countries so far. They're our closest allies. Of course they're not going to be receptive to our overtures now. Of course they're going to run into the arms of China. Of course this is exacerbating our demise. Anybody who thinks that Trump is helping us regain our footing on the world stage is only helping cut off our own legs. And that's the thing about making America great again. So far, it's only served to make us worse. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on this screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.